Well, hello everyone, welcome to the 25th iOS tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll talk about important subject which is Xcode debugging tools. We have different tools like console, breakpoint, capture view hierarchy that we will go over each tools in a second. So let's move on. We all have this experience that we are working with an application, we do something and it crashes the app and it goes to the home screen. We have the same situation while we are developing an application. We do something and run the program and suddenly it crashes. And in this tutorial, we'll see how we can handle and see what is the problem that it crashed the application. And the app that you're seeing is from tutorial number 18 and manipulated to crash and then fix it to see how we can do different tools to first recognize the problem and then fix it. So let's just run the program and see what would happen. This is the contact list and it just shows the name and the numbers. As I said, you can download it. And while I scroll, it crashed. And it brings me to a file that I have not seen this file, I have not touched it. If you watch the tutorial, you see that we didn't do anything. We didn't even write this code. It's just in the main file, main.m file, and the folder supporting file. So we did not touch this, and on the left hand side we'll see the CPU usage, memory usage, and the different thread. And we cannot say anything what is wrong with this application. But there are some useful information at the bottom. You can see here it's the console. Let me go a little bit. Yes, here. Just make it bigger. Okay, let's go to the top and see what it's saying. It says the date and the time, and contact list with protocol is the name of the application, and it says terminating app due to uncut exception. What is exception? If I want to simply explain it, when your application crashes, it says it's an exception. But in computer science, we say exception because programmers should handle exceptions in order to avoid any crash. So it says because of uncut exception, because we didn't have this exception, we didn't handle this exception, that's why it crashed. And it says an strange exception, we don't know what is it. And the reason is important. It says NSArray M, so it shows that something wrong with the array, one of our array. And method, this is the method that causes this problem, object at index. And it says index 14 beyond bounds 0 to 13. So I can guess that the problem is it wants to read index 14 of my array, but my array has only 13 items. So that's why it crashed. But where this exactly happened? How can I find which part of my code it happened? And also we have some more information which is for the log and the libraries, and I don't think that these are helpful for debugging. But with these 3 lines, we can say so something wrong with the array, but it's not that helpful if we want to see exactly and be efficient. We have to go over all of our file and see which one has array and then fix it, but it's not very helpful. So how I can see exactly where this happened, if we go to this navigator, show the breakpoint navigator, if I go there and go back, you'll see there's a plus button at the very bottom here. I see, yeah, there's a plus button. If I click on this, it says add exception breakpoint. Just click on this exception breakpoint. So if I now look at it, it says all exception. What it does is when I run the program and it crashes, it shows where the code causes this exception. So let's run it again. And then when I scroll, now it brings me to the point that crash starts. So it shows that it is in the contact tvc.m file, and this is in this line of code. So I see that this line of code could cause this problem, and that's why, because I added 1 to the array, and that's why it has 13 objects, and I want the 14th item. So this is the method that I said it caused the problem, and that's why this is number 1 that I add at the end. It caused this problem. Right now this +1 is very obvious. In your real application you may not see this very easily, but it at least brings you to the right point that it throws an exception. We have different types of breakpoints. The one that we added was for all exceptions, and you can see all of your breakpoints, as I said, inside of the breakpoint navigator. And if I want to have a custom breakpoint, I go to the file that I want to add. For example, for me, I want to add a breakpoint in add contact vc.m file, and I want to add a breakpoint when they press add button. And by just clicking on that line, on the left side of that line, I just create an arrow, blue arrow, that shows a breakpoint. So what would happen if the line of code reached to this point? Let's run the program and see what would happen. If I play the program and then go fast, it's maybe slow. I should change my computer. Okay, now I want to add, I want to say, okay, this is the name, Huckstack, and the number is 111, 1111, 1111. Okay, let's just add. So it didn't add it, it just stopped, and then goes to the point that I added breakpoint. So this is very useful. We can see what exactly happening inside of our application, maybe before the crash. So what I can do, if you see there are multiple buttons here, if I just zoom in, you can see this is the breakpoint. I can enable or disable this breakpoint. If you see, if it goes to the gray out. The next one is that it says continue program. If I press this button, the program will continue. Let's test it. It added my name, Huckstack. So this it changed to the pause. Right now it paused because the program is done with the one that I wanted. So let's do one more time. This time, for the sake of the time, I just put H and just 1 and then add. It again goes through this process. So we tested this one. What is this? It steps over. If I click on this, it will go to the next line of the code. So step over, it just goes to one line. If I had one more line, it will go to the next line and the next line, and execute it until it finished to the method. So if I go to the next line again, because my method is finished, it goes to the point that it's not much useful for me. So I just I continue the program, and it will add the one that I add. So let's add it one more time. H this time to add, And let's see what is exactly this button. Step into. So we have different properties and method here. The first property is delegate, self.delegate. If I step into, it goes to the setter and getter for this delegate. So it goes to deep inside of my property. So what is a deep inside, which is setter and getter. So it should go to my property, because by defining the property, we are actually defining the setter and getter automatically. So if I go step into, it goes to the property. So it is right. And the next button close to it is step out. So it will go back to the place that I was. So it goes back to the add contact. The next one is self and that name field dot text. So it should go again to the property, because the setter and getter is the place that step into should bring me. So if I go back, it was showing me to this line, which is name field, and it's right. So if I step out, it goes again to this part, and now it will go to the number field. If I step into goes to the name field, and then step out. But these are just a property. What if we have a method? So like add contact name. If I step into again, then it will bring me the add contact. This is the method that I want. So this is useful sometimes, that you want to step into and see what is exactly going to this line of code. So it brings me to add contact name, and I can see, okay, the name and the phone. It just, if I hover it, I can see I type H as a name and phone 2 as a phone. So if I don't hover over these, I can see it over here as well. If you enable these two, hide the variables and console, if you enable this, you can see this part, and it says phone is equal to, and name is H. So if I just go one step over it, if you remember, I say it goes to the next line. Okay, now my self.names has a value because it adds the object. It adds the object, which is name. So how can I see self.names value? If I hover it and click on it, it shows me an arrow, and it's not useful. So how can I get information out of it? This is the time that it's very useful to know how we can work with the console. If I go here, you can see the cursor. I say PO, which is print output, and then the name of the property. For here, it's self.names, which is self. It helped me to autocomplete. So self.names. If I hit enter, look what it brought up for me. It brought up all of the contents of the array, which is John, Jack. These are all of the names that I can see. So if I do the same thing for phone, it actually it added the H as well. We have two H. It's the last one that I had because I stepped over it. And now I cannot see, if I print the same thing for phones, I should not see the 2 because this is not executing this line yet. So let's do the same thing for phones. Say PO self.phones. Now it has all of the phones except the 2 that we added because it's not executing this line yet. So if I go to the next line, now if I print this, if I say PO self.phones, now it added 2. So this is the next tool that we can use and see the properties values. And then if I step out, If I step out, it goes again to my add contact press. So these tools are very important. You can print the description of each array. You can print the description of dictionary. Each method and each class in Objective-C has a description. So by PO, you just say, give me the description. And for description of the array, you just bring all of the content name. And for a dictionary, you have the same thing. You can test on your properties and your variables. The other type of breakpoint is conditional breakpoint. And it means that, for example, if I add a breakpoint here, and if I run the program, once it reached to this line of code, it stopped the program and showed this line of code. But what if I just want to stop whenever the name is Hookstack? So I just add a breakpoint like normal breakpoint here, and then I right click on it and it shows me a menu, and I can edit the breakpoint. So we have disabled the breakpoint, which is just, it's graded out. We can do it by just clicking again on it, and also we can delete it, and we can delete it like, see, if I move it here, it just puff. And also we can add edit breakpoint. If I edit breakpoint, it will show a window that I can add my condition here, and it's like writing Objective-C code. So I just say my condition like name, and there is a method is, if you know, is equal for comparing the strings. We use this method and add our name here, the name that we want to stop the program once it matched the condition, and that's it. We just added our condition. If I just see if it added, yeah, my condition is here. Now if I run the program, if I play the program, we didn't even want to play it again because the condition changed. I add a name like HG, and it should not stop, and it didn't stop. But if I add Hookstack, it brings me to the breakpoint. So this is the conditional breakpoint. The last but not the least subject that I want to cover in this tutorial is capturing view hierarchy. This application is the one that we created in the previous tutorial for showing the image. If I run the program and I want to see the view hierarchy, for example, I select the image and then go into the images and then add an image for the background, for example this picture, and then maybe make it smaller and then select image. Then in this position I come here and press this button, debug view hierarchy. It's very bottom of the page right next to the other buttons. So if I press this button, see how it does? It shows me the screen capture, and then if I click here and start dragging, it will show me the layer of the view, and you can see easily each layer which is on top of other layers. For example, my camera button, image gallery button, cancel button, and I can click on them and see what exactly. And it's very helpful when we have different view elements and we want to see which one is first and which one on top of each other. For example, sometimes we hide it and we don't know which view is on the top, and this is really good for debugging the view elements. So we have different buttons here. This is for the zoom in, zoom out. This one, it shows the wireframes, layers that we didn't touch actually. The contents, it just showed the contents, not the layer that contact this, make this like stick together, this kind of wire. And also we have this button that just show the front view, and also this one that shows only the constraints. If you hover over each button, it will show you what exactly these buttons are doing. So you can just when I do this here, you can just put the space between the layers by this slider, and you can show and hide from the top to the bottom by this slider. It shows you from the bottom to the top, and this one top to the bottom, which view will go first to the screen and then which one goes out of the screen first. So that's all for this tutorial. This is very important to know how we can debug the application.